So good afternoon. Our topic is on lessons from the census, and census is taken every 10 years in Singapore, this population census. As of the end of 2020, then our population size now is 5.8 million. This refers to citizens and permanent residents. The purpose of this talk is to examine the data that we obtained from the census 2020, but specifically in relationship to the Catholic Church. And then we analyze that reality. From the data, we know the reality, the fact, and from the fact, we ask the questions, then how the church should respond to the reality, to the situations. A little bit of background. The Catholic Church, it was founded in Singapore in 1821. That's why we celebrate the 200 years anniversary. And the Archdiocese of Malacca, Singapore was first established in 1953. So we were once together with Malaysia. At that time, there were 46,000 Catholics, 38 priests, and 19 parishes. In 1972, only in 1972, that Singapore as a diocese was separated from Malacca. So we established a diocese by ourselves. It became standalone. And the first Archbishop was an MEP priest, and then Michael Oxomendi, the first Archbishop of Singapore. And only in 1977 that Archbishop Gregory Yong was installed as the first local bishop. So that is the scenario for our church. To date, currently, we have 32 churches, of which 29 of them are operating as parishes, meaning that a few churches are not operating as parishes. For example, Novena Church, it is a devotional church. People attend devotion to Our Lady, but it doesn't serve as a parish where the priests will look after all their spiritual and pastoral needs. So the number of churches in the various districts, we are divided into 5 districts: cities, Rangoon, north, east, and west. So the number will indicate the number of parishes. At the moment, there are 61 diocesan priests active, 61 religious priests, and 7 personal prelature priests. This is a special term, the church vocab. That means the Opus Dei priests, they are not religious, neither are they diocesan priests. They have a special ecclesial status known as personal prelature. And in 2020, according to the census, a Catholic 15 years and above amount to this number of people, 242,000. Now, the population census is taken every 10 years. And of course, the data is important for the government to make strategy policies for the country. Yeah. But some of the informations that are related to the Catholic Church, then they are relevant to us. So we are going to look at the informations and to ask ourselves as Catholics, how are we going to respond to that reality so that the church can move towards the vision of the Archbishop, that we can become a more vibrant, evangelizing, and missionary church. So we say that our total population is 5.8 million, but we are not producing as we want. That's why over the years, we have this immigration policy where we accept immigrants, new immigrants, and then they either become a PR or citizens. Here you have the fertility rate according to age group. So you see that until age 39, the average person with children is lower than 2. It's only after age 40 then the numbers increase slightly. And the average, if you total up, ever married residents, the fertility rate is 2.04 compared to 2.24 10 years ago. So that is the fact. So how it affects us as a church? Of course, on the whole, Singapore, we are concerned about birth rate, because when you have less birth rate, then of course you have more elderly in the country. But then this question about giving birth, for us Catholics, do we think differently from others who doesn't share our faith, or do we have the same mentality of most people thinking that, having children is a burden? Sometimes the reason we say that is because raising children is very expensive. That's why we can't afford to raise children. So for us Catholics, do we share the values of the society at large, or do we have our own understanding? For us Catholics, we always encourage open to life mentality. I would just like to comment about this thing about it is costly to have children. For me, this remark that it is costly to raise children, in a way, is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, when a couple has only one child, there is a tendency for them to spend a lot on that one child. So if a pair of shoes for children's shoes, maybe you can get it $20, $30, slightly better one, maybe $50, $60. But then the parents would be willing to spend $200, $300 for a pair of shoes for the children. And then they complain, it's expensive. Shirts-wise, for example, maybe $10, $20, or more expensive, $30, a T-shirt, a shirt for children, that would be sufficient, more than enough to keep warm and etc. But then the parents may want to spend $80, $150 for one shirt. And then they say, oh, raising children is expensive. In a way, it's self-inflicting. The cost is self-inflicting. And the mentality is that, oh, since I have only one child, and then I just spend on the child. It doesn't matter after then money earned. But in a way, if they would have 2 children, 3, 4, or even 5, actually for a family like that who are willing to spend $300 for the pair of shoes, they actually can afford to raise 4 children, for example. Just that because of this mentality, then they self-inflict the cost, and then they say, oh, they cannot afford. But if they have the understanding and the value that having more children is a joy, and that when you have more than one child at home, then the children can learn as soon as possible how to interact well with one another. I have not done the studies on that, the impact of a one-child family, whether the child would grow up being more self-preoccupied. I got a feeling that might be the case, although there's no proof. I suppose there are some studies on that also, but I have not got research into that. But my gut feeling is that when there is only one child at home, then it's likely that the child will be pampered, the child will be having all the attention, the child will likely to have whatever he or she wants, and then therefore the child will grow up with that attitude, with that mentality that I'm the king, I'm the queen, and I'm the center of the universe, and that perhaps would affect the way the child, when grows up, relate to people around him or her. And of course, when a person is too self-centered, self-preoccupied, it is not too good in terms of cultivating the Christian values. Because for us, Christian value, one of the core value for us is that we want to be more open to God and to open to other people. But that is possible only when I'm less preoccupied with myself, then I can think more of others. Now, linked to that fertility rate is the population, aging populations. So you can see that Singapore has fewer young people than the elderly, and as the year goes by, that situation becomes even more severe. So in 2020, the median age is 41.5 compared to 37.4 in 2010. And those aged 55 to 69 has increased from 9.7% to 13.4%. So our population is definitely aging. There are more elderly people. And what is the issue? The issue is that the elderly face health, financial, emotional, and social difficulties. And so as a society as a whole, and then the church in particular, how can we respond to that situation so that we can give adequate assistance to the elderly from the institutional as well as the communal point of view? Ideally, in every church, in every parish, we should have some kind of programs, activities planned to cater for the needs of the elderly. For example, during this pandemic period, of course, we have some safe distancing measures that trying to restrict the number of people going to church. We have our own policies and so forth. And then the elderly, for now, they have to do registration for a church. Then they have to do booking. So comparatively, relatively, of course, the elderly would have greater difficulties in accessing the technology. And therefore, this question about booking for Mass and so forth. And then also, they are being told that don't go out, and stay at home. And so being isolated from others, being isolated from the community can add to a lot of psychological problems for the elderly. So how do we respond to that? I'm glad that at Holy Cross we have, prior to the pandemic, we already have a strong senior group. They call themselves the Golden Disciples. Very beautiful name. And prior to that, they already had very regular gatherings, activities, social, spiritual, and aesthetic, as well as so they have ukulele class, drawing class, and so, and they have good friendship. They built relationship. So what happened is that during these 2 difficult years, the leaders make effort to reach out to fellow elderlies. So they form a kind of a self-group, small communities. And those who are better tech-savvy, they even make the effort of visiting those who are less, and then engaging in helping them how to use the different apps, the handphone apps, the Zoom, and so forth, and different telecommunications devices to help them be in connect with their family members as well as with their friends and so forth. So things like that, I think, are very important when we realize that there are so many elderly people, and their welfare is of very important. Of course, caring for the elderly is primarily the duties of the families, the children, the grandchildren, and so forth. But then we know that life is so complicated. Sometimes even with goodwill and so forth, their children, their grandchildren may not be able to provide the necessary care and concern for the elderly. So certain effort for self-help, certain effort for elder connections and communications and mutual helps would be very important for the elderly. So I hope that uh, all our parishes will be able to develop vibrant, strong senior groups, senior communities, so that whether in bad times or good times, it can be a source of help for them. So they have the familiar needs, they have psychological needs, they have the spiritual needs, which, for example, now the spiritual needs, many of them have difficulties coming for Mass, either for fear or for technical problems. They are not. So last year, at the end of the first year of the pandemic, we kind of set up a task force and encouraged the elderly, those who have difficulties registering and booking for Mass, to come, and then volunteers will teach them how to use their mobile. It's not easy for them the first time. After the first time, they forget their email and things like that. So you have to go into very practical details, telling them to write down their email and things like that, so that they won't forget their email, so that they are able to book the Mass and things like that. So very practical helps to enable them to be connected spiritually, so that they can come for Mass. And for those who are immobile or for some reason cannot come up, then we try to reach out to them. So our ministry for the housebound will reach out to them to visit them whenever possible, to pray with them, to socialize, and then to give communion to them. The religiosity of our population in 2020, you can see the data here. So there's a comparison, 2010 and then 2020. So Buddhism, Taoism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, other religion, and no religion. You can see for Christianity, the percentage is okay, about the same, slight increase, but no religion has increased from 17% to 20%. That means over the past 10 years, there are more people who say that I have no religion, a 3% increase, especially among the younger people. So here you have the age group. So you see the increased percentage. Those with no religion. This age group, 25 to 34, increased from 19 to 26, 18 to 22, 14 to 18. While the elder one of no religion is slightly lower percentage. Of course, those who say that I have no religion, we presume that they are either atheists, they don't believe in God, or they are agnostic. That means I don't know whether it's God or not, but I have my practical needs to look after, so I go after my day-to-day business and all that. No time to talk about God and religion for now. But of course, religion is strictly down sociological definition is strictly speaking not just about believing in God or not believing in God, but it's also about the concern with the more ultimate questions of life. Where do I come from? What is the meaning of my life? And where do I go when I die? These are some fundamental and ultimate questions of life. And so sociologists may classify some kind of belief system that not necessarily profess a belief in God. For example, strictly speaking, Buddhism is more the philosophy of life rather than a religion. But of course, in the grassroots, the popular Buddhists, they turn Buddha into a god. They worship Buddha as a god, although Buddha himself say that I'm not God, but I seek enlightenment. But it shows that those people who are of popular religions. They are longing for a God. Anyway, religiosity is about believing in God. Also, it's about concerning the ultimate question of life. And about 20% of the population seems to say that I can put this on hold for the time being. So they profess themselves having no religion. For us, the church, of course, we think that we have the responsibility of promoting and enhancing the spirit of awe. Even if you say that you don't believe in a particular religion, but at least you have a sense of awe of things that are divine, things that are supernatural. The sense of transcendence, that life is more than just the earthly life, material life. There's something more than that. There's something spiritual about life. And for us Catholics, of course, we believe in the personal God, so the presence of God. So we want to think about our religious education, especially among the young, because when it comes to the populations, we have another data that shows that, yeah, the religiosity of the young people and among Christians going down a little bit. This is the data for Catholic populations by age. So we can see that here age, this is the younger people. The data is for those 16 and above. You see that over the past 10 years, there is a decrease of 4.8% for this age group, and then 8% for 25-29. 30 to 34, decrease of 29%, and 35 to 9, 26%. But for the older ones, starting from age 40, then there is an increase, 7%, 17, 12, 15, 29, 100%, 73, etc. So it looks like for some reasons, the younger one, referring to those 39 and below, says that they are not Catholics. Either they were Catholics before, but now they say they are not Catholics, or that the younger ones now growing up. But once they reach a certain age, 40 and above, it seems that there is a greater attraction to Catholicity. Is it because people who are younger are looking for religion that are perhaps seemingly more vibrant, more exuberant, those who can sing and dance and go for worship? So that kind of Christian expressions, is it because of that? And then when they reach a certain age, when their life is more stable and settled and all that, they look for more sober, solemn religion. And Catholicism seems to suit their spiritual needs when they reach certain age. Of course, we need further research and studies to look into the reasons behind this. But it looks like the case that when they grow older, they prefer a more solemn, sober religion. So could it be that the younger adults not attracted to Catholic faith comparatively because they are preoccupied with their career and family? Or are they attracted to other religion or other Christian denominations? Just in terms of other Christian denominations, then is it because other Christian denominations seems to be more vibrant, seems to be more attracting and interesting in some sense? But it seems that as they grow in maturity, they prefer a more sober and solemn religion. But then still the question is that gap, the younger adults, what can the church do to reach out to these people, find ways to make the church more attractive and relevant to them. I'm not going to provide the answers. We are all going to think about it, and we are going to reflect about it, and we have to come to possible solutions together. Christianity by education. So you can see that this is so-called increase of educational level from below secondary to secondary, post-secondary to diploma and university. So you can see that those with no religion, as they increase in their educational level, the percentage increase. So the percentage of people with no religion increases with the increase in the educational level, and the percentage is highest among those of tertiary education. And in the past 10 years, 2010 to 20 is from 24% to 28%. As for Christianity, the green one, Christianity, so those with lower education, slight increase, same, slight decrease, and then, so you can see that those with diploma and professional qualification and university educations, the percentage has decreased. 2-3 percentage points. Of course, if you just look at percentage point, it looks like not very big. But in terms of numbers, that can be a big number. So the issue is, does it mean that people with higher education are questioning and expecting a more rational understanding of faith? We always say that faith is not just about the head knowledge. Faith is more about the heart and how the heart responds to the personal God. But is it true that in general, people with higher education would expect more rationality, more rational explanation of their faith and so forth? So in sharing our faith, sharing the doctrines, presenting catechesis, Christian teachers, including Catholic and Protestants, are we resorting too often to more authoritative, stereotypical, and legalistic presentation of our faith? For Christians, they often say, Bible says so. Bible says so, you just accept. So that's the more faith according to Bible approach. That's for the Christians. But for the Catholic, we may not say Bible says so, but we say the church says so. This is the teaching of the church. So in a way, we are not allowing questioning, we are not allowing intellectual investigation and pursuit of the faith. And if we just take that approach in presenting our faith, then for the intellectual, then they may say, okay, if you cannot kind of explain to me, you don't give me good reasons why I should believe in this and that, then probably that is one of the reasons that they say, then this religion is not rational, this religion is against science, this religion is against reason, and so forth. It might be, I'm not 100% sure, but based on the need of the intellectual people, then it is reasonable to assume that they expect more explanations from the church. And we cannot just hush and say, you just believe, you just accept. Religion is a heart that you believe, and now don't question. Perhaps we cannot for people who are intellectuals. So our doctrines cannot be imposed, but have to be reasonably and beautifully presented and accepted. So there are two aspects of it. One is the way we present our faith in a more rational way that people can understand. Because with higher education, they want to understand, they want to reason out, they want to make sense to them. We know that, of course, things spiritual, things of God, many things cannot be fully explored just by the intellect. But at the same time, it's one aspect. God created us as both sensible, as well as intellectual. So we do have that needs. But of course, there's another aspect that we have to produce living witnesses who could testify their faith and not just talking about their faith. So of course, talking about the faith reasonably is one thing, and then living up the faith concretely, manifesting the truth of Jesus, the love of Jesus in our life, that practical witnessing is important. With regard to language spoken, so you have that data. 1-0, those language spoken at home is 32%, increased to 48%. Mandarin used to be 35, now reduced to 29. Dialect 14 to 8, and then the rest. We realized that 10 years ago, almost 50%, if you add these together, Mandarin and Chinese dialect, almost 50% of our populations, the heart language, that means the language they are spoken at home, these are they feel more at ease, they feel more comfortable when they are relaxing at home. This is the language that they use. 10 years later, 2020, reduced to 37, around that percentage, but still a high percentage. So close to 40% of our residents now speak either Mandarin or Chinese dialect at home. Now the issue is what the home language, of course, is the language of the heart, but the Catholic Church as a whole, perhaps some other Christian denominations also, we have not paid enough attention to this social reality, and we do not really have a strategic plan to outreach to this big proportion of the residents. Because of our historical past, the church being started by the missionaries who are from Western countries and so forth. So by and large, Catholic Church and Christian churches in Singapore are dominated by the English speakers by and large. So when we go to church, we got a feeling that, for example, on weekends, if the church has 5 masses, out of 5 masses, maybe we only have 1 Mandarin mass. And the attendance for that Mandarin mass, maybe 200. And then compared to pre-COVID-19, where you have 1,000 people for the English language mass, then we got the impression, there are so few Mandarin speakers, no? So there's no need to evangelize. There's no need to pay special attention to people who are Mandarin speaking and dialect speaking. But because we are only looking at the church, those are the people coming to they are already Catholics. So there are a significant among the English speakers at home. Yeah, there's a good proportion who are Christians, who are Catholics. But how about those people who are not yet Catholics, not yet Christians? Are we reaching out to them? Apparently, we are not, because we got the illusion, we got the wrong idea that, most people are English speaking. And there are actually very few, only a handful of people speaking Mandarin. So there's no need to evangelize using the Mandarin and using the dialects. But we have forgotten that if we go to the market, if we go to some public places, you go to the coffee shop, you realize that actually there's a lot of people still speaking Mandarin, a lot of people still speaking dialects. But these are the people who are not Christian yet, who are not Catholics yet. But we are not reaching out to them. We are not serving them. Because we think that they are only 5%, 2%. But actually, they are not 5%, 2%. They are close to 40%. But we have kind of neglected our responsibility to evangelize. So if you want to achieve the vision of the bishop of having a more vibrant, evangelizing and missionary church, then we cannot close our eyes to that reality. There are still so many people who are non-Christian, non- Catholics, that they need to hear the gospel. Many early missionary priests, they had a different attitude. So I show you here a few of the priests. This one is Father Amyot. My first parish, rather my second parish, I was the assistant priest of Father Amyot at Yisun, Star of the Sea, my parish priest. He spent maybe a year or two in Shanghai, but even just that 2 years in China, he had the heart to evangelize the Chinese speaking. So when he rebuilt the Star of the Sea Church from Sambawang, relocate to Yisun, the first thing he asked from the then Bishop Yong was, send me a Mandarin speaking priest as my assistant. And then specifically he asked for such a priest, and then I was transferred from Holy Trinity to Star of the Sea to assist him. And when I went there, he told me, Father, I want you to do all you can to start Mandarin ministries. We must evangelize the Mandarin speakers and the Teochew speakers. So I give you liberty. Any group, any ministry you want to start, just go ahead. He had that vision, realizing that there are still so many people unchurched who are not English speakers. And of course, we have Father Janikin, Father Chabonnier, a French priest. They are all French MEP priests. And he was among the first who set up organizations called China Bridge. And he was the first priest who produced the guidebook to church in China. So for many years he visited China. He collected data and so forth. And during the earlier days when internet's not so prevalent, that guidebook was the most important book for people to, when they visit China, they know where is the Catholic Church, where to find a Catholic Church in Suzhou, in Hangzhou, in Shanghai, and all that. And he spent a lot of effort, his energy on all that, helping. Of course, it's not only in English, the guidebook. He's French, so the French version and so forth. So the outside world, so to say, at that time, depended quite a bit on his guidebook to the church in China. Father Betor, of course, we know, spoke fluent Teochew, and then Janikin spoke both Mandarin and Teochew. So I think the local church, we should invest more human, structural, financial resource to make the diocese more evangelizing towards the non-English speakers. Divorce and separation, Census 2020 shows that, so this is the divorce and separated percentage from 2010 to 2015. So the divorce and separated rates, 20%, 22%. Now, if you look at the divorce rate by religion, so you have the different religion. So here, Christianity, interestingly, we have separation between Catholic and other Christians. And so the number, divorced and separated here. And sadly, the Catholic divorce rate is one of the highest of all religion, even higher than people with no religion. Non-religion is only 4.04%. Catholic is 4.69%. So in spite of our insistence that young couples should attend marriage preparation course, and in spite of the church teaching that marriage should be a lifelong commitment, the percentage of divorce and separation among Catholics is still so high. And that is definitely a very serious problem. So how do we respond? How can we work with people of goodwill to promote and enhance family values. In my years of pastoral work, I realized that actually what helps couples to form a more lasting relationship, one of the most important factor is that they share common values. So my own wonder is that, is it because among the Catholics who divorced and separated, it is actually a mixed marriage. That means a Catholic marrying people with other religion or no religion. And because of the value differences, and that is one of the primary cause which resulted in difficulties in our relationship and so forth. Because if you are two persons with no religion, you can share values in many other things, but at least you have common values. And but if one of you is Catholic and one is non-Catholic, okay, you can have common values in, say, sport interests and music and all that. But when it comes to something that is very fundamental, spiritual, then if the values are very different, then that can be a big problem. So I'm wondering whether it is because of that value difference that cause the misunderstanding, conflicts, and therefore eventually that leads to divorce. We have to examine that. But for many young couples, when they first get married, very often they do not think deeply about these issues about value compatibility. As long as you love me, I love you, you are beautiful, you are handsome, you are rich, you are jovious, then I'm attracted to you. Perhaps they have not think more deeply into what can really help them to develop a strong, lasting relationship. And they have neglected the aspects of shared values in their family life. Perhaps we want to examine that more. And then the question about singles, those who are unmarried. The fact is that among Catholics, there are more unmarried today as compared to 10 years ago, an increase of 9.2%. And those widowed is 11% compared to 10 years ago. That means today we have a lot of singles and widowed Catholics. So it means that more people remain single or are married late, and then there are also widows. So this is in terms of our pastoral care. Our pastoral care for the single, our pastoral care for the widowed. What can we do? What should we do? How can we better minister to those who are divorced and separated and widowed? Of course, it's a painful thing. But good that right now the church actually we have some programs that look after that, but we need to make it more well known so that people can take advantage of these programs that the church has for the single, for the divorced and separated and widowed. Okay, the organizer says I have only 1 minute left. By now it's 0 minutes. 5 minutes can. So do you have any questions?
You said the divorce rates for Catholics are very
compared
high.
to other.
Yeah. Is it also because, I mean, technically, after Catholics are divorced, they can't remarry. So those who do not remarry, therefore stay divorced. And therefore, the rate continues to grow because of the existing group of divorced Catholics who keep to their religious obligation to not remarry.
No, the data's registered divorce. So whether you are divorced and remarried again, you still have a record of divorce. So the number is considered in that manner. Yeah. So you can be remarried, not single anymore, but then you had divorce. Also, that is the statistics that we're looking into. So I have presented some sociological facts. So these are the data, these are the hard facts that we want to look into. And but the background behind the statistics, of course, I presented some of my personal view. You may have your own views, you may have your own reasoning. And then, of course, the next thing is that you're faced with this reality. What should we do? How should we do? These are more concrete, practical things that we want to discuss. And as a church, we have to respond to the signs of the time. Jesus asks us to look, don't just look at the skies and the clouds and all that, and you know about the weather. You must know more about the weather. You have to study the signs of the time in society. And when you look at those signs, then what should you do? What should we do as church in Singapore? So thank you very much for your attention, and we can have ongoing reflection on these questions, and perhaps we can all contribute to a more vibrant missionary and evangelist church by being honest with the reality and doing something about it. Thank you, and God bless you.